Welcome, beautiful people of all ages, shapes, and colors, to another episode of the Hit Your Free Throws podcast, where we encourage you to stick to the basics. I'm one of your co-hosts, TV, aka TV on Basketball, alongside my co-host Jay, aka the Knockdown Jay. How's it going, my guy?
Bro, we haven't recorded in a week of some change, and NBA basketball has been kicking off crazy. I'm so glad we're finally able to hop on the mic and talk hoops because both me and you, people that's checking out on TikTok, y'all know best. Me and TV have been locked in on basically just a game here or there, but just about every game, start to finish, of every single series, start to finish, giving you as
Yeah.
best of breakdown, best immediate breakdown also as we possibly can, just instantly reacting to a lot of these games. And now that we get to sit down and really have the conversation, because me and TV haven't talked a single moment, like
Yeah.
really about these series in depth since the last time that we both were on the pod. Now we both have seen the entire first round go through, and man, I can't wait to hear your thoughts. Crazy first
Exactly,
round.
man. Look, we had a bit of a sickness. We had some people out of town the last week or so it was a little bit hard to get to recording. But we're gonna sit down. We're almost at the second round too. We're gonna go through all these series, bro. And don't even worry. Even though we missed a week and a half, this week is gonna be action packed. We got an episode today, and we got a couple episodes next week. You're gonna want to look out for. So we're gonna be all over it. Don't worry. We're gonna make it up to you guys. And thank you guys for all the support on the TikTok and Instagram, by the way. Those are popping off. With respect to all of you.
Yes,
But yeah,
sir.
great episode today. Going to go through all the series. We're going to predict the one series that's actually confirmed right now, which is the Timberwolves Nuggets. And then, we got the quiz, we got the draft. It's going to be an awesome Hit Your Free Throws episode. And by the way, Jay's Punishment coming to a theater near you in a couple
The
episodes.
stuff finally came in the mail. It finally came in the
There
mail.
we
We're,
go.
we're going to
So,
set that up for next episode. Yes,
for
sir.
sure. So we're going to get that going for you in the next episode. Not today, but the next one, because there's too much to talk about today. So it's going to be great. But before we get into that, we do have to plug our socials. Remember to follow our individual accounts at TV on Basketball, after Routine Jumper. Those links can be found in the description down below. In terms of the Hit Your Free Throws pod, TikTok and Instagram, that's where it's popping right now. The immediate recaps. Be on the lookout for that. Follow those two. Follow our TikTok and Instagram for all of that. In terms of YouTube, remember to like, share, and subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you will not miss an episode. And if you're supporting us on any of the podcast networks, leave a review, subscribe, and all that good stuff. We really do appreciate all of your support. Jay, 8 series that we have not even talked about. Let's get right into it, bro. And we're
I'm
gonna,
excited, bro. I'm excited.
bro, let us start off with a bang, because we're gonna start with the Knicks 76ers, because I think that is the hottest series out east right now.
Yeah.
The Knicks are 3-2 up, and honestly, let's be honest, they should have won this series already. They were up by 6, 30 seconds left in Game 5. Tyrese Maxey just gave the 76ers a freaking lifeline to extend this game to 6. But this has been a back and forth series. Embiid has been on, Embiid is enough. But yeah, let's throw it over to you. Let's get your thoughts on this series in general so far.
TV, I said this on TikTok when I broke down game two. I think that game two of Knicks Sixers might be the best game in the first round. Like legitimately, it's between that and Pacers game three. Those are the two. That's 1A and 1B. That's what I said on TikTok.
Yo,
1A and
Clippers,
1B for
Clippers
sure.
Mavericks too, bro. Clippers Mavericks game 4 is up there.
Clippers Mavericks game four is up there. Somebody else told me that Lakers Denver game two is up there.
Yeah, the one where the Lakers gave up a 20-point lead. Yeah.
Yeah, they said that was another one that was suggested. There were a couple people that were in the comments giving me a couple of suggestions of like what the best game through the first round of the playoffs is. Which, by the way, let us know what you guys think the best game of the playoffs so far has been. Because man, it's been really insane. I mean, don't get me wrong, you've had a couple of stinkers here and there, mainly in that Phoenix Minnesota series. We'll get to that later.
Yeah.
But in this series right here, where we're talking about where we're talking about Philadelphia versus New York. I mean, TV, the first two games, Jalen Brunson couldn't buy a bucket, but his team was just able to carry the heroics from Josh Hart. Dante DiVincenzo has not been too great throughout this series, but through the first two games, he was doing okay. But TV, the man of the hour that we got to talk about when it comes to the New York Knicks, your boy OG is putting work.
Defensively, bro. I'm telling you, yo, when he's on the court, we saw it in the regular season. Their record is like insane. I think they've only lost like 4 or 5 games when OG was on the court.
Mm-hmm. I think the thing that was so notable, right? I think it was either it might have been game three I think it was game four was when it first started. And it might have been due to the injury. There was some like static going on in terms of the Mitchell Robinson Isaiah Hartenstein minutes, where there became a point where OG Anunoby was guarding Joel Embiid at the
Yeah, and
center
it was
spot.
working. And it was
And
working.
and TV, it instantly got me thinking to the OG Toronto Raptors teams. It
Yeah.
makes sense that against Nick Nurse of all people, this idea of utilizing OG Anunoby, who's a bigger body, strong wing, is able to put his physical frame on a guy like Joel Embiid. And TV, it's so funny that this series is more of a game of attrition because the Knicks are like the poster child for we're gonna play all 40, we're gonna play all 48 minutes, we're gonna
Yeah.
play all 82 games. You know what I'm saying? Like they're the poster child for like never giving up a second. And then you have somebody like Joel Embiid, who's like the permanent MVP. He might not be on the floor for 48 minutes, but if he's on the floor for at least 36, he's going to give you buckets for the full 36. But you can see throughout these first 5 games, bro, that Joel Embiid, when it came fourth quarter time, it was some nights where he was gassed, and that dude, Tyrese Maxey, stepped up in a big way. Tyrese, he's due for a contract extension this summer. I'm not asking for anything less than the max. And if Daryl Morey even wants to talk, we're hanging up the phone. I'm sorry, bro.
No. He's getting it 100%.
100%. So I think so before I pass it over to you, the guys who stood out to me in this series that are not the superstars, shout out to Josh Hart. Why can Isaiah Hartenstein not miss a floater? That man is automatic from 10 feet.
Yeah.
Automatic from 10 feet. And who dusted off Nicholas Batum again?
He's been great.
Dusted him off again, and he's out here putting in work. Those are the 3 guys, non-superstars, that I think have been super impactful in this series. We're going to find a way to roast Tobias Harris somewhere in this because he's well-deserved.
Hey,
but
look,
I got to hear your thoughts first.
Oh, yeah, no, quick thing on Tobias Harris. He finally had a good game in the last game. Look at that.
We'll give him that. But we're going to get back to him. We'll get back to him,
had a good game in this one. But, I mean, you talked about it, man. Jalen Brunson couldn't buy a bucket the first 2 games. He's been, like, one of the best point guards like in the league in the last couple. He has been absolutely insane. Tyrese Maxey going tick for tack with him, especially in the last couple. And Embiid, look, he wasn't great offensively, and I know that. I mean, you talk about freaking like Thibodeau in the minutes. People forget freaking Nick Nurse like in his freaking 7 and 8 man rotation back in Toronto, bro. He played Embiid almost 50 minutes in the last game, and he honestly he was injured. He definitely looked injured, but that defense he was playing in overtime, fantastic. And he also got the N1 to help seal the game. But yeah, it's been a great back and forth series. You could tell that the Knicks are missing that interior presence in Julius Randle, because if they had Julius Randle, I could say that this series could have been like over already if they had him in the series. But the Philadelphia 76ers, they're fighting away. Joel Embiid having some good games, but Tyrese Maxey has been their MVP so far. Going tick for tack with Jalen Brunson, being able to create shots for himself, and also just be like the hub of the offense. He has been absolutely fantastic. And honestly, that game 5, just heroics in that final 20 seconds. He scored 7 straight points. He was fantastic. But Jay, the one guy I want to shout out here, and we talked about how important he was to the series because the Knicks have no other point guard help. Miles McBride, man.
Yep.
Miles McBride. We said it. I talked about how he's going to be an X factor. This guy has had 3 games over 13 points. He's been hitting the 3 ball at a consistent rate. He's been awesome. They needed some help next to Jalen Brunson, and even he's ending games beside Jalen Brunson. If you remember in the last game when the Knicks thought they won it, he hit that mid-range jumper from the free throw line, and he like helped close out that game, even though they ended up losing. But it was still like he was having a great game nonetheless. Their defense is great. They're out hustling Philly at every chance. They are like out rebounding them in the series by a decent amount. And Philly, in order to win the series, and like they were down 3-1, they have to just freaking match this energy from the physicality from the Knicks, especially when they have Mitchell Robinson and Isaiah Hartenstein like trying to deal with Embiid. You need to be able to match that. Embiid needs to be able to find something within him to play throughout those 48 minutes, or else they're gonna be out of the series real quick. But the 76ers, again, led by Embiid and Tyrese Maxey, has been great. The third best player, kind of been flopping. We talked about Nicholas Batum. Kyle Lowry has been great, by the way. Even though he hasn't been like having like the craziest numbers, the defense he's been playing, the extra playmaking he has brought, he's been good as well. Kelly Oubre, and then of course, I mean, Tobias Harris has had one good game, but that's about it. But yeah, great back and forth series so far. Battle of 2 coaches who they're looking at each other and they're like, "Oh, you don't think we're gonna play our stars 48 minutes? Well, watch this." Both, I mean, Tyrese Maxey played 50 minutes in the last one. it's about like which, again, you said the battle of attrition. Who's being able to outlast the other, and the starters are gonna have to find out in the last couple of games because this Tibbs doesn't want the series to go 7. He's gonna end up playing like his guys like a hell of a amount of minutes in this game tonight, and they're gonna try and close it out. But man, for a series that doesn't have Julius Randle and probably has a hobble to Joel Embiid, it's been really fun to watch.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing too is you mentioned the physicality of the series. It's definitely an old school East kind of matchup. That's definitely the one thing that's ringed for me for sure. And in game one, the Knicks came out and punched them in the mouth. Sixers could not compete on the boards. Seemed like the Knicks were just flat out hustling them in game one. Game two, TV, there were mad techs and flagrants within like the first quarter of game two.
Yeah.
You knew Philly was just like, okay, if you guys are going to be this way, then we have to respond accordingly. And although they did not end up winning that game, there were a lot of down the stretch lack of conversions that ended up flipping the script. Otherwise, Philly could have came out of game two 1-1, right?
Yeah.
So this whole thing changes if that dynamic doesn't go the way it did. And by the way, one of the craziest sequences, by the way, that we've ever seen. Now, don't get me wrong. Tyrese Maxey, 7 points, 26 seconds, elite.
Yeah.
Elite. Game two sequence at the end of the game, elite. Like the way this game, I mean, this series between the Philadelphia 76ers and the New York Knicks has easily been one of the more exciting first rounds we're ever going to see. And I think the most intriguing part about it is you see the urgency from these two teams, and you see the urgency from these two teams right now. And the craziest thing is they both have the flexibility to get significantly better in the summer. I think that's the scariest part about both of these two teams, because the Knicks have draft capital out the wazoo. And of course, they have young guys developing on the bench that have played relatively well for them. That might look really intriguing now. Like, for example, you mentioned Miles McBride. Miles McBride has made that Emmanuel Quickly trade a lot easier to swallow, a lot easier to be able to look at and say, you know what? We still are getting this 3-point shooting production, and Miles McBride is also one of our better defenders on the perimeter. That's been huge for them. Now, granted, they might want to keep up Miles, but if you can get a superstar potential to add next to Jalen Brunson, that makes it easier when that's maybe like that's your bench guard coming off for you that you might be able to facilitate with a trade. And then you have Philly, who's going to go into the summer with a lot of money, especially when they start with letting Tobias Harris walk, because we know what's going to happen. Because TV, I would say, and I don't know if they're going to do it. One thing I think that Philadelphia missed a chance to do throughout this series, I think Nicholas Batum should have got to start a long time ago.
Yeah.
That's the one thing I think could have really changed this series in early going is Nicholas Batum. I don't think you'll ever be able to out physical New York.
Yes.
That's Philly, right?
Especially with the lack of bench that Philly has.
Exactly. But if you notice, when Philly has been really good, it's been when they make quick decisions. When Tyrese Maxey makes a quick decision off the catch, dangerous. One of the scariest things that happened for Philly is Joel Embiid got that injury, and almost his tentativeness because of his injury almost made it where that was the game 3 where he erupted for like 50 points,
50,
right?
Yeah, that was the one where he injured Mitchell Robinson, like when he was like, oh yeah.
Yeah, in a game like that where he's hobbled, his injury made him so apprehensive that it almost made him make quicker decisions, and you saw him actually play better. Yeah. Because he just decided to go. You know, Joel Embiid likes to do all the, the handle stuff, slow the game back down, likes to slow the game down in ways that sometimes he just doesn't necessarily need to. And we saw games like game 3 where you go for the 50 ball, where it's like, dude, if you just make quick decisions, nobody can handle you out here. Nobody can handle you one-on-one. And some of the traps weren't even working. So this is one of those series that I feel like Nicholas Batum being added as just a cerebral player that could just help with the team making quicker decisions. As a connector, we talked about him as one of the best glue guys in NBA history, right? Yeah. Nicholas Batum, him, Kyle Lowry, Tyrese Maxey. Then you have a guy like obviously Joel Embiid. And then pick your poison for where you want to put that fourth guy. There were a couple of in that game 5, Tobias Harris next to Nicholas Batum actually worked out really well.
Yeah.
Right. So you have those opportunities. Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff to really look at in this series that makes you feel good about both teams, win, lose, coming out of this series. But easily, like you said before, the best series so far in the first round has to be.
Has to be in terms of, and you also got the freaking commentary of Mike Breen going over there as
Yeah,
well. So, like that just
yeah.
adds to the lore of this series, and it's been great. It's been great. Game 6 as tonight as of recording, and I'm for sure not gonna miss that one. So it's gonna be a great series to cover. And you know what? The 76ers, again, they could have lost in 5, but they gave themselves a lifeline here. So let's see if they're gonna be able to bounce back. Hopefully in the next series, we might talk about like how they're gonna make it to the next round, or again, the Nexus might even make it there as well for their series. Jay, we started off with a bang here. We gotta go. We gotta go to a quick series really quick. We gotta take this like we have to peel this Band-Aid off. Boston, Miami. Yeah, this is a series where I had to cover for the TikToks, and to be honest, I didn't have much to say because
Those were TV's shorter TikToks.
it was definitely one of the shorter TikToks. And besides that, freaking, and the funny thing is, bro, that game 2 was the one I asked you to freaking cover because I accidentally did one of your series. So like all the games I covered from this series was freaking just Boston blowouts. Literally, 3-ball was going hard.
Mhm.
Jason Tatum only had to average 20 and 10 this series. You had freaking 2 Derek White masterpieces, and you had a Kristaps Porzingis injury, and the Heat just looked completely outmatched. That's all you have to say for this one. Jay, any thoughts on this series?
TV, we said it in the preview. Boston in 5 because we know they're not going to be able to handle it. We said it. We said
Yes.
it in the preview. We said Boston in 5 because they're going to find a way to give Miami a game because that's just what they do. That's what they do.
They gave him a game where the Heat hit 22 threes.
They
This
gave
Miami team,
him they
this
gave him a
Miami team,
game where Tyler Hero got double-digit assists.
not just double digit, he had like 14 assists. It's insane. It was a crazy amount.
Oh man.
Oh yeah. I mean, like Tyler Hero, let's be honest, besides that one game, was pretty buns all series. Bam Adebayo was solid. You had, solid production from Caleb Martin, but without Terry Rozier in this lineup, without Jimmy Butler, they stood no chance. Boston did what they had to do. It just sucks that Porzingis had to go down in the process, but they took care of business. Jay, any other thoughts? I honestly don't think this series should last long to like talk.
Nasty work, bro. I think the worst thing that Boston could have did was let this series go too long because now Kristaps is hurt. Like, what the heck? I mean, don't get me wrong. He's got some time to rest up a little bit. It's going to help him out. And I think they could have handled Miami without Kristaps, to be honest with you.
Honestly, yes.
But I think this is just one of those series. If you learn anything from Boston in this series against Miami, is that if you will tit for tat for them, if you go tit for tat with them from the 3-ball, there are nights where you can get them. There are nights where they can get got. And at the end of the day, you only need a few nights where you're just really blazing, and then some nights where you just flat out compete and just tend to out hustle. But this is a Boston team that I think has just been really lackadaisical after the All-Star break because you even saw, I mean, look, they stumbled into the postseason. Like they didn't have a good couple of games to end the regular season off. And you could tell they just kind of didn't care because they were just waiting for the postseason to start. Hence the
Because they had like
blowing
a
up on
10-game
Milwaukee and
lead.
stuff.
They had like a 10-game lead since like January. That's how crazy it
Yeah.
is.
So I to be honest with you, I think that playing Miami was just an extended part of the regular season to them. Like I think that's why game 2 happened was because I feel like they were just still sleepwalking through because it's like Miami's hobbled, we're gonna take them out, no worries. And it was just like you let them get hot from 3 in game 2, and it's the only reason they had any breath because they were supposed to be out. Like I said, I mean, you said at the top of this section, we really shouldn't give this series too much energy because I don't think Boston gave it too much energy. So I don't even know what the point of us giving gas in it too much is. But we knew Miami was going to be out, and we also knew that Boston was going to find a way to make the series more interesting than it needed to be. But at least they got it done in 5 games. And at the end of the day, you look at both sides of the bracket, bro. Both 1 seeds should be feeling pretty good about their path to the finals, low key. I mean, OKC still got something in front of them. Don't get me wrong, because whoever comes out of Clippers Mavs is not going to be a slouch. But I mean,
it's a chance. There's a chance either way. I mean, for Boston, it should be like the easiest path to the conference finals, bro.
Yeah. Wait. Just to confirm, they get the winner of Orlando Cleveland, right? Oh, brother, that might actually need to be the next series we go to. It's oh my god. Oh my god.
Bro, I said it in the preview. And I've said it in my recaps. they have the easiest path to the conference finals probably they've had in years. Just they shouldn't Boston it up. And what I mean by that is make it more harder on themselves. They should, like we saw them, like again, the 3 ball was falling this series. What's going to happen when it's not falling? Especially when you're going up against a team like the Orlando Magic and their defense is stout. They got to learn how to adjust. We haven't had to see that in the Miami series because let's be honest, they were the clear favorites. Once they face like a team that's healthy and a team that's willing to give resistance, that's what we're gonna have to wait and see. And I'm excited to see what that series is. I don't know if it's gonna be the next one because let's be honest, they look like miles ahead of even like a Cleveland, Orlando. But we're gonna have to wait and see. But I'm not gonna give Boston more attention. Their playoffs haven't started yet. I'm not gonna consider their playoffs have started yet. But Jay, we're gonna move on to that series that we just talked about. The Orlando Magic taking on the Cleveland Cavaliers. And Jay, I have to admit, it's a 3-2 series. But it feels like every game, besides Game 5, I think Game 5 was the most entertaining out of the 5. But the first 4 games, it felt like either team who won needed like some sort of monumental collapse of the other to pull out the win. Like the first 2 games, Orlando couldn't buy a bucket. They could not buy a bucket. In games 3 and 4, they found their offense. Game 4 was insane. I don't know how the Cavs just stopped scoring in that second half. Like, they were up by, like, 10 or something, and then they just stopped scoring. Like, a lot of this series has been hard to watch. And this has been a 3-2 series, but the Cavs have the lead. They're in the driver's seat. Jay, you were covering the series. What are your thoughts on this?
So like TV said, we both got at least one series that was just buns. This was mine. So this is the series that I deem the ugly stepchild series in the Eastern Conference, because this is the series that catches the most flack because it's the one that gets put on NBA TV, basically just about every single game. And none of their games up till Game 5 made any sense.
Yes.
That's the crazy part about this series. You mentioned games 1 and 2. Donovan Mitchell came out punching people in the face. He was so good offensively. Like, he was so good offensively as a shot creator. TV, you mentioned it. Dude, in Game 4, they shut the water off my boy. He had like 15 or 18 points at halftime and never scored again.
I don't get it. I don't get how Game 4 happened. I look 1 minute, they're up by 10. Next up, they're down by 20. Like, what on earth happened in that second half?
And then the craziest part is you go 4 straight games where Darius Garland is barely heard from. And then in Game 5, where he gets hobbled a little bit, by the way, he has his best game of the series.
Like 17 in the first quarter. Was it like 17 in the first quarter or something like that? He was insane.
He was hooping. I think the first quarter was where he did most of his damage, but he was hooping to get them started in Game 5. And it's like, and then, for example, another one, the flip side of it, Franz Wagner, model of consistency, about 17 to 18 points the first 3 games. Game 4, bonkers. You have back-to-back games for Paulo Banchero and Franz Wagner where they become like the youngest players to get like 30 plus points and 10 plus rebounds with 0 turnovers or something like that in NBA history, in back-to-back games from Game 3 and Game 4 between the two of them. And you're looking at this Magic team and you're like, oh, well, if their 2 top guys are going to do this, this series is over. Like, this is ridiculous. Game 3 for Jalen Suggs, like, insane. He went literally tit for tat with Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell. He outscored both of them in Game 3.
Yeah.
This looked like a series, when you really look at the totality of it, bro, this looked like a series that I think Orlando came out jittery through the first 2 games, being on the road. I think they got back to the crib and regained some of their momentum. Also, they finally moved Jonathan Isaac back to the bench and put us back in that Isaac-Mo Wagner 6-man combo routine that got them so far during the regular season. Man.
It works.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Jonathan Isaac was starting through the first couple of games, and it made things a little wonky offensively for them. And although he was a menace on the defensive end, it still has been so. That tandem with Isaac and Wagner, man, it works for a reason. It's a 1-2 punch that's very odd, but very, very effective. Yeah. And so this is a series that I've just been confused on the entire way through, but I'll tell you this much. Paulo Banchero is a real star in the making. This guy is a real shot creator. And I think that once he starts to learn how to take easier shots, This Orlando Magic team is going to be something terrible to deal with.
His efficiency has gone a lot better from the regular season, and that's what I really like to see. Especially in that, even though they lost the last game, 38 points on those efficiency stats. That's the good thing you want to see. It's just the Magic are just not a great offensive team, and we knew this going into the series. If it's not Wagner, if it's not Franz, if it's not Paolo, I mean, you're gonna get a Jalen Suggs game here and there. We saw that in Game 3. But where else do you go with this team? Like, no one else is creating. No one else. And the thing is, that's why I think we both had the Cavs winning, even though it was gonna be not. It was gonna be kind of a long. I think did we both have the Cavs winning?
I think I picked Orlando. I picked Orlando 6.
Yeah. So I think I had the Cavs winning just because of their. Yeah, I think I had the Cavs winning because of their, at least their offensive options, and we saw that in the last game as well. But man, it's just you see the Cavs' potential, man. You see it, and those 4 guys especially. But the way that they just turn off and portions of the game, even thinking back to Game 1, that game should have been it should have been a lot bigger than it was. It's they didn't even score 100 points. The way that Donovan Mitchell was playing, especially in that first half, this should have been a 110 plus game for the Cleveland Cavaliers. But they just never get to that next level, and that's what I'm worried about. Them going forward with this 2-headed lineup in the front court, and also how far they can go in the playoffs. They got the Boston Celtics next, and we're looking at the Cavs, and they were just a 50+ win team the other season. And we're looking at them as potentially just dog food for the Celtics next round. It's not good, man. It's not looking good for honestly either of the teams. I honestly think that because of the Celtics Magic defensive identity, they might even put a better competition against the Celtics.
I agree with you. No, for sure. If the Cavs go up against the Celtics should, operative word should, win this series in 5 games, because I think Donovan Mitchell is just due for one. But if we're being real, if we're just keeping it a bean, if Jalen Suggs was able to shut the water off on Darius Garland and or Donovan Mitchell, what the hell is Drew Holiday about to do to them? The combo of Drew Holiday and Jaylen Brown, or Drew Holiday and Derek White, or Drew Holiday and Jason Tatum, it's clamps.
They're gonna hound them.
It's ridiculous. And then you mention it with Orlando. I almost give Orlando a better chance in a series like that just because I saw them during the regular season give Boston fits.
Yeah.
I saw them do it when in many occasions where it really didn't seem like they were supposed to beat Boston at all. They beat them
because they could chase times. Because they got guys that could chase them off the line. It's not like this Cavs where they have a 2 big man lineup and they have to roam the paint all the time. They got Jonathan Isaac, they got Paolo, they got a bunch of these lengthy wings that can give the Celtics where they're the strongest problems.
Yeah.
Sure, they might not be able to catch up offensively. Let's be honest. If they can't do it with the Cavs, they're not gonna be able to do it with the Celtics. But still, they have at least that to go for them. But either way, for either of these teams, I'm not liking their chances in the next round.
Nasty work, bro. It's one of those series where it's definitely one of the harder series to watch. I think this slub that they both have going on, where offense has just been so hard to come by, I think that's made it the hardest part about watching this series. In terms of me covering it specifically, I just feel like the hardest part is just there's no consistency. I mean, Game 1, Donovan Mitchell comes out, snaps. Game 2, Donovan Mitchell snaps. Evan Mobley and Jared Allen have really strong games themselves. Game 3, Paolo Banchero and Jalen Suggs go off. Game 4, Franz Wagner turns into God himself in the second half. Game 5, Jared Allen is out with a bruised rib, and Max Strus at the wing position decides, well, I'll step up. And he decides to have a really strong shooting night. Darius Garland has his best game of the series, and they come up with the win in Game 5. There's no storyline you could step to consistently.
No one has momentum. There's no momentum in the series.
TD, both of these teams are shooting less than 30% from 3 for the series. What am I supposed to do with that? What am I supposed to deduce with that kind of circumstance where neither team is shooting well from 3? Both teams are rebounding well because both teams have strong rebounding units.
And they're just missing a lot, bro.
Well, that too. They're missing a ton. The offensive rebound numbers, by the way, in this series have to be high because, what the hell? But yeah, there's no consistencies in this series where I'm able to point out a specific storyline, and it's made it really hard to cover. But I think that's the part that makes them the most interesting, because honestly, I think they get manhandled by Boston regardless. But the way you go about it is night and day, depending on if you get Cleveland versus Orlando. If you get Cleveland, you shut the water off their two guards, you win the series. But Orlando, you're going to have to make sure that three ball is falling the way we know Boston is capable of, because the three ball is the equalizer against a team like Orlando because they don't shoot the three ball well, but they guard the three ball well. So that's the thing that they're the contrast between the two teams makes it where whoever Boston is waiting for, that game one is going to be a little shaky because both teams play differently. So game planning for both at the same time is not going to be fun. But we know, like I said, Boston in 5 for the next series. We already see it coming. But this has been. Is this the hardest series to probably watch through the first round, or is Boston Miami like by far?
It's Boston Miami just because. I mean, at least you can see good offense from Boston. I mean, I guess Orlando's had a couple of days, but at the same time, it's just like it might be the hardest watch, but it's still 3-2, so it's still definitely like to see. So yeah. It's definitely been one of the series in the East. It's definitely one of the series. All right, we're going to the final series, and the one is actually going on right now as we speak. Pacers Bucks. The Pacers had after game one, they finally started hitting the three ball. They started playing their game, and they averaged 122 points over the from games 2 to 4. But man, no Damian Lillard in game 5, no Giannis Antetokounmpo. The Pacers have a chance to close it out at home, and they lay an egg. They just they could not hit anything, and they let Malik Beasley freaking twerk on him, bro. They let Malik Beasley freaking do the little booty shake at the end there. Oh, it was a tough watch, but the Bucks are still in it. Pacers are 3-2 up, and as we're talking, the Pacers up by 10. Jay, what are your thoughts on the series?
Pacers sold game 5, bro.
Yeah.
What the hell happened? No Dame, no Giannis, and you let Bobby Portis go off. You let Bobby Portis get in his bag. He was TV. I've never seen a more complete game from a guy that we consider as a role player than what we saw from Bobby Portis. Bobby Portis was guarding Pascal Siakam well. He was getting in the mid-range. He was getting offensive rebounds, finishes around the glass. He had a couple tray balls. Bobby Portis, bro. That's something I'm gonna have to do this off camera, but we got to look at Bobby Portis' contract, man, because that dude, he might be one of the better budget buys in the league for what his overall skill set offensively is.
He talked about it when he signed a deal with Milwaukee, bro. He just wants to be there. He said he took discounts from other teams that are offering him more. He just wants to be there, and he's still producing at a high level.
Facts, because he stepped in a real way, and the biggest part about it that I want to give Bobby Portis some credit for is Milwaukee realized that Brook Lopez just could not handle guarding Pascal Siakam. It just seemed like any time that Brook Lopez was put on Pascal Siakam, Pascal just saw nothing but net. It seemed like, especially through the first couple of games, Pascal just was not seeing anything but the basket when it came to being guarded by Brook Lopez. But whenever he was guarded up against Bobby Portis's physicality really kind of equalized things. And more specifically, I think the one that stood out, the game that stood out to me the most for Bobby Portis defensively, because offensively we know it's game 5, right? Yeah. But defensively was game 3. Game 3 was the one where down the stretch before going into overtime, Indiana kind of got into this hero ball mode thing where they started going through Pascal Siakam in the last 4 minutes of the game. And you kind of just saw them passing the ball to Siakam saying, we know who your matchup is. Go hunt them one-on-one and go get yourself a bucket. And Bobby Portis clearly saw that they were seeking him out, and he took that personally. He took that personally, and he took that challenge on the nose. And it was huge to see him compete on that side of the ball. And he made it really hard for Pascal Siakam, which was why you had so many offensive rebounds from guys like Miles Turner and Andrew Nembhard, who ended up being a very big part of that comeback in game 3. Or Aaron Nesmith, right? Another guy who's been able to compete
He
really
had
hard
some
on the
big
defense.
shots in that game. Big shots.
Big shots, game 3, right? But nothing, again, the game 3 obviously was the one that I said was tied for the best game so far in the first round. And it's because, man, Tyrese Halliburton is a real special player, dude. He's a real special player.
When he's on it, he's special, bro.
He's really hooping, bro. He's different. Those games, I was very disappointed with Tyrese Halliburton from an aggressive standpoint on the offensive end. It seemed like he was very passive. I think both of the first 2 games, he took like less than 12 shots. I think in game 1, I went on a full-blown rant about how Ben Shepherd had taken 1 less shot than him, which makes no sense, by the way. I think TJ McConnell took more shots than he did in game 1.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And then in game 3 was where he really turned things up. And although the stats weren't like mind-blowingly crazy, the biggest, most important basket came from your best player. Yes. Slingshot action in overtime, coming off of the pressure of seeing Chris Middleton.
Yeah.
After watching Chris Middleton hit 2 shots from God, honestly, right? Especially the bank shot 3.
He's been amazing this series. Amazing.
Chris Middleton's been a real deep. To respond in a real way in that overtime, in that part of overtime, in the final seconds of OT, to catch the ball in the backcourt on a slingshot action, split 2, get a back contest from Patrick Beverly and a front contest, and still make a teardrop floater as the clock goes down to win your team a game. Like, dude, this Indiana Pacers team is so much better than this series has indicated. And games like game 3 just show you that they are super talented. Games like game 4 made you feel like this series should have been over.
Yes.
And so this is the thing. There's a real likelihood that we could be ragging on the Pacers and then they mess around and win this series tonight as we're recording this. But I'm worried about the Pacers moving forward, whether they win this series or they go to game 7. Because I think the reality of the situation is that although they are a very talented team, I think there's still a lot of development that they need to go through.
They don't have the playoff edge. They don't have that playoff edge. And you can tell when it comes to late game situations that even though the Bucks don't have Dame in times, they don't have Giannis, they just know how to be more composed in these situations. Like Chris Middleton, like just knows like where to be, like what matchups he needs to seek out. Patrick Beverly like knows exactly like who to give it to, like how to defend and how to lock down these final few minutes. You can tell that the Bucks have been here for years. Yes. You could tell that. The Pacers, you could tell that they haven't been here before. Because if they're not scoring 120 points, if they're not playing their game to the highest level, if you're not getting Miles Turner freaking going off for like a career high 7 threes, they look a little ordinary. And I think this is, I listened to this on the Draymond Green podcast where he said that the Pacers feel like an 82 game team and not a 16 game team. And I know exactly what he means, because when it comes down to those slow down possessions, when you have to work in the half court, the Pacers don't have that yet. They had that earlier on with Pascal Siakam. But when, like you've mentioned, when you put Bobby Portis on him and you stop Pascal on his motions, like in his spin moves at an earlier point than what Brook Lopez has when he's giving him a bit more space as a runway, it's a lot different for them. So, yes, I'm a bit worried for the Pacers, because if their play style isn't working, are they going to be able to compete with a New York Knicks team who have one of the best half-court offensive leaders in Jalen Brunson? I don't know about that, man. Or even if you have to like go half-court with Joel Embiid, I don't know about that. But I will say the Pacers have found a way to play their game, and that's why they're up 3-2 on the series. That's the reason why they're probably going to win tonight. But it's just moving forward. Is this sustainable? I don't know about that.
That's the word for it. The biggest thing is game 3 was probably the best representation of their ability to convert in the half court when things got tight.
And they needed like 7 offensive rebounds to even get a bucket. Remember in that overtime period?
I'm glad you said it, because that's the point I was going to get to. Game 3 was their best representation of operating in the half court. And it didn't look good. Like, it didn't look good. It was a lot of tough baskets, a lot of hard up operating, and just simply out hustling the Bucks.
Yeah.
you're not going TV. We just said this about Philly. You're not gonna out hustle the Knicks.
Yeah.
So when you have to operate in the half court and the game changes, out hustling is not going to be your route to being able to beat a team like the Knicks. It's not going to be your route to be able to beat a team maybe like Philly, but it's still going to be really difficult to compete that way with a team like the Philadelphia 76ers.
Yeah.
My biggest thing is, and I love that point that you brought up from the Draymond Green podcast about the 82 game versus 16 game type of team. We knew from the jump the Indiana Pacers' best way to operate, one of the main reasons why Pascal Siakam fits so well with that team, is because their ability to operate in transition. When the game slows down, what does this team look like? In certain instances, we've seen them shine, a la their battle through the in-season tournament, where there were a couple of games where they were able to come down to the wire and really make things happen in the half court. And then you have other games, for example, like the in-season tournament championship against the Lakers, or a game like Game 5 against Milwaukee, where when it gets clunky, they don't know what to do. And I just fear for them. I fear for them. And you guess what, TV? You know who could have made this a lot simpler for them?
What?
Buddy Hield. Who, by the way, has not given Philadelphia much. So I'm not trying to say, oh, he's been balling for Philadelphia. He would definitely be balling for the Pacers. That's not necessarily what I'm saying. But TV, you mentioned something a while back when we were talking about the Pacers after acquiring Pascal Siakam, which is, yes, we know about the Tyrese Halliburton injury, but I think part of Tyrese Halliburton not being as great after coming back is just the fact that he had super synergy with Buddy Hield, like dating back to Sacramento.
Yes.
Removing him from the equation, especially in a season like this where you know you're aiming for the playoffs, it felt weird to essentially let him go for nothing, even if you did think he wasn't going to re-sign in the offseason. At bare minimum, you let it play out. You see if he balls out in the playoffs for you. And then if he's worth the money he's asking for, well, damn it, he just proved it to you in the playoffs. So at this rate, you give him the money. And if he still chooses to walk away, well, you got a strong postseason out of him, and you get to see the archetype of a guy like Buddy Hield in the postseason next to Tyrese Halliburton. And now you figure out how can you get a guy similar to him to make the same things work. But they took themselves out of the equation by trading him to Philly. And so now you miss out on a big thing. I'm not going to say Buddy Hield is like a difference maker in some insane way, but I do think he has significantly, his presence being gone has changed the dynamic of how the Indiana Pacers offense has ran. And I also think it would have been super dope to see him as a part of the action now having Pascal Siakam on the team, which we never got to see for a single second.
Yeah, 100%. One more thing I want to add before we move on to the West Series. The Pacers have won all 3 of their games when they are moving the ball. Each game that they've won, 30-plus assists. Facts. If they're in the half court, if they go into ISO mode, that's – I mean, we saw it in freaking Game 3, and they're during that 6 possessions. Going ISO mode does not work well for them. If they start turning the ball over, not getting as many assists, that's when it starts going bad for them. If they can get into the flow of their offense, if they can start passing the ball around, that's big. That's what happens when you have Tyrese Halliburton as the main hub of your offense. So if they can continue to do that, then they will be fine offensively. The question is, can they work well in a half court and be able to have that guy that you can go to on a night-to-night basis? I'm not sure, but we're gonna have to wait and see. Maybe the Pacers have it done tonight. In the next episode, we could talk about how the Pacers are gonna deal with the New York Knicks or the 76ers, depending on who they face. So yeah, the Pacers have been good so far. They might close out tonight, but let's see if they're able, if the Bucks are able to still bounce back. Let's move on to the West Series, man. A couple of them. Actually, 3 of them are done. 3 of them got put some quick work. Jay, let's get the sweeps out the way, man. And we're gonna go with the most entertaining sweep of them all: the Timberwolves versus the Suns. And I'm gonna start it off here, Jay, because I've been covering the series from start to finish. 2 things. One, I'll get the obvious out the way. Anthony Edwards is this is absolutely phenomenal to watch.
Yeah.
People have been saying it all year. He has shades of Michael Jordan. I haven't seen someone with this amount of like balance of humbleness and arrogance at the same time, that killer instinct, being able to come off 2 sprained ankles in the same game and still be able to dunk over LeBron James. Yeah. But I mean, over like Kevin
Kevin
Durant.
Durant. Mm-hmm.
Like, he's a killer. He's an absolute killer. And it's not just Anthony Edwards too, right? Karl Anthony Towns has found his role as a power forward. He's not going to be like that 25 and 12 guy that we've seen from years past, but it's working. He has found a way to play well defensively, and he's hitting his shots. Rudy Gobert. You know what this series tells me about Rudy Gobert? That the Jazz did him so dirty. Because
Facts.
they did him so dirty. Because you know what the Timberwolves team has? Legitimate defenders on the perimeter. When you pair that with the best rim protector of all basketball, it's going to create an elite defense. And the Suns found it out the hard way. You know what the Utah Jazz did? Let's have a Ricky Rubio, Donovan Mitchell, Joe Ingles. Let's let these guys and say, you know what? You can get past us. We have Rudy Gobert in the background. And then he got freaking like exposed in the playoffs that way because they had no one else to guard the perimeter. This Timberwolves teams have figured out. And we were talking about how, they fell into the wrong matchup, especially because they like got swept into the season series from the by the Phoenix Suns. They figured it out. They realized that Anthony Edwards is that guy and he's able to take him to the promised land. But they also realized Mike Conley is like the perfect like point guard to absolutely lead this team and feed the other guys. Karl Anthony Towns has found his role as the 4-man, being able to take advantage of smaller wings, but also be able to hit the 3. And Gobert had a fantastic series, not just playing defensively, but when he got the ball, finishing at the rim, hitting his free throws. This team was absolutely phenomenal in the series versus the Suns, and they even got offense from Jaden McDaniels. They also got that from him. So when you have all those factors, when you have Nickeil Alexander-Walker also hitting like a couple games where he had like 4 more threes, this team becomes like, you see that record in that 56 wins, you see why they were able to be so well in the regular season and they're able to translate it to the playoffs.
TV, I'm so proud of the Timberwolves, man. I'm so proud of this team.
I'm so happy that they're not fake. I'm so happy that it's not it's actually real that what we're seeing.
I think the funniest part about this series is we came in and we went based off regular season based expectations. It just seemed like during the entire regular season, the Phoenix Suns had the Minnesota Timberwolves number. And if you go based off the regular season record, you'd be right. And that's what we did. And I think this was a bad case of looking at star powers and name versus concept and consistency, right? We know who Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, and Devin Booker are as talents, but we saw them in limited minutes together as a cohesive unit. Now, granted, when they did play together as a cohesive unit, they were one of the best offensive units in basketball, understood. But certain minimal circumstances, minimum sample size. You know what we had a maximum sample size of? 82 games of the Minnesota Timberwolves being the best defense in basketball. And we didn't go with the facts. The facts say that although the Phoenix Suns had the better, quote unquote, talent from an offensive standpoint, the cohesion of that team or the lack thereof cohesion of that team does not, will not make up for the fact that the Minnesota Timberwolves have been one of the best defensive units in basketball. And the Phoenix Suns made the combination of Anthony Edwards, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and Jaden McDaniels look like Jordan, Scottie Pippen, and Ron Harper on defense. Like it didn't matter who Devin Booker saw. It wasn't a good matchup. Like defensively, all 3 of those guys got Devin Booker on a possession-to-possession basis, and they all made, outside of maybe one game, which might have been game 4.
It was game 4. He had like almost 50. Yeah.
Yeah. Outside of game 4, they made his life a living hell for most of that series.
Yeah.
And but by the way, Bradley Beal, I'll be damned if I get swept, proceeds to get swept, goes into his press conference at the end of the game and says, well, I'll be damned.
Hey, look, man. Look, get swept, and in the final game, 9 points, 6 turnovers, 6 fouls.
Gee, I mean, talk about selling. But yeah. I'm just, like I said, I'm just so proud of this Minnesota Timberwolves team. This has been one of my favorite teams to follow throughout this season. TV, we said it at the beginning, or I remember saying at the beginning of the year and before the postseason started, that The Timberwolves were going to have to play with a different level of urgency. They got a lot going on in the background in terms of their team ownership and things of that nature that all really matter. And of course, they've got the looming talks of the excessive money that's built into Rudy Gobert, Anthony Edwards, and of course, Karl Anthony Towns looming in the background. They were going to have to make the most of this postseason because Lord knows what next year looks like for this team,
Yes.
right? They're giving this organization every reason and then some to pay the damn money because this team is legit. This team, if you actually remember last year, Aaron Gordon said that it was this Minnesota Timberwolves team that wasn't even this good, by the way, last year.
Not
It
yet. Yeah.
It was the Minnesota Timberwolves that Aaron Gordon said were the ones that gave the Nuggets actually their hardest series last season. I think that's interesting to take into consideration, considering how much better Anthony Edwards has been, how much more in his role Rudy Gobert has been able to be. And this rise of Jaden McDaniels and the come out party from my boy, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who, man, been done greasy before getting to Minnesota because there were a couple of different opportunities where he could have really made something for himself.
Oh, the Pelicans, that Pelicans run was nasty work. He was like one of the worst players in the league at that time.
And he has come over to this team. And mind you, coolest part about him coming out of college was he was viewed as more of an offensive player out of college, has turned himself into one of the better perimeter defenders at the guard position already. And that's huge for his development because he's still a knockdown three-point shooter. That's been shown throughout the playoffs and throughout most of this year. So shout out to my boy Nickeil Alexander-Walker because I was huge on him coming out of the draft. And that Pelicans run was really tough. Mind you, could have been a Laker. Could have been a Laker, but they went with D'Angelo Russell.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, this Minnesota Timberwolves team is going to be scary. I see them giving the Denver Nuggets a real run for their money. Mind you, the Denver Nuggets have a hobbled Jamal Murray. Keep that in mind.
Yeah.
I love what the Minnesota Timberwolves are doing. The Phoenix Suns got to go drop back to the drawing board, and they're going to be nothing but doodling in place because what are you supposed to do?
You have $170 million tied to that starting five. That's what they have to deal with right now. And look, we're not going to talk about the Phoenix Suns like too much right now. Honestly, the next episode we're going to talk about the teams that got eliminated and see where they have to go next. That's what we're probably going to do. But still, man, this Timberwolves team, everything clicking right now. Mike Conley being again the perfect point guard. I can't sing this man's praises enough. He's not going to put up the crazy stats like he used to do for Memphis, but he is the one. This is what the Phoenix Suns needed. Just a calm-headed, level point guard who just knew how to get guys in their positions.
Yes.
Where in the roster do the Phoenix Suns have that? They don't even know who their eight to 10 players on their rotation are. They were still trying to figure that out in this series. Like, the Phoenix Suns looked like an absolute mess. We didn't look at the bigger picture of the Phoenix Suns. We looked like Kevin Durant, Devin Booker. Yes, they won 3 games against the Timberwolves this year. They should do it again. We didn't look over the overlying issue. It was like, oh, besides Yusuf Nurkic, are they going to be able to trust Drew Eubanks? Oh, are they going to have to dust off Bol? It's been tough, bro. It was a tough time. I mean, it was like even Eric Gordon looked tough at times. Royce O'Neal looked like the freaking most solid guy outside of the big three. Man, I'm not gonna talk about the Suns right now, but still, it was a tough watch, especially if you're not named Kevin Durant or Devin Booker if you're the Phoenix Suns. While the Timberwolves finally had everything clicking. We didn't even mention Naz Reid, who had some freaking solid games in this series as well.
Mm-hmm.
6th man of the year, by the way, Naz Reid.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, great win for the Timberwolves. Anything you have to add before we move on to the next series?
No, man. Obviously, we'll get into Phoenix on a different day in terms of just what they do moving forward. But I mean, definitely not the most entertaining series. This is one of those series that I think, in terms of just overall front to back, kind of falls in the same lane as the Boston versus Miami one. But it definitely had some more exciting moments that we got, a lot more character, right, in this series. And really, there's a theme throughout this first round with a couple of these teams of youth and athleticism versus age. And
chemistry. All these young teams, they've been together for a little bit now. They give the Thunder, they give the Timberwolves, they give the Nuggets. These teams have been together for a while now. And then these put together teams who have to make major changes each season, that stuff isn't gonna work anymore, bro.
TV, I'm not gonna lie, man. There's a reality that series like the Minnesota Timberwolves versus Phoenix Suns is an indicator of a change of the guard, man. And we're gonna talk about another series where there might be literally a change of the guard. But man, I'm not gonna lie to you, man. We're stepping into a new era of NBA basketball, and we're seeing it before our very eyes. And I think by the end of this postseason, there's gonna be this dynamic shift in where the league goes philosophically, but also, shoot, who we think the top 10 players in the league are.
Yeah, team building wise, like who the best players in the league are. The older guys are getting pushed aside a little bit here, and the guys are really emerging here. It's great to see, man. It's great to see that the NBA is in good hands past what we have, like for what we had the past decade or so. The NBA is in great hands.
Mm-hmm.
Jay, time to move on to the Boston Heat series in the West. Pelicans Thunder.
You're right. This is definitely the Boston. This is definitely the Boston Heat series in the West. Definitely, you're right. This is the one. This is the one.
Man, Zion would have made the series so much more fun, but the Thunder sweep the Pelicans. They didn't let this team crack 100 points.
They didn't let them crack 95.
What? They didn't. The highest they scored was 92. This was tough. We talk about tough watches. At least this team is freaking Shea and the rest of them. But goodness gracious, man. I will say, this is a series I covered, and this is like, man, I had to cover this series and I had to cover Boston Miami. There was like, bro,
he got a bad draw. He got a bad draw.
There was some tough ones in there. I will say this though, Brandon Ingram, he was not ready to come back. He was not ready to come back. CJ McCollum, he ended off the season like averaging like 28 points per game in the final 8. Where were you this series, CJ?
Mm-hmm.
Where were you? I feel like their most reliable 3-point shooter this entire series, not even Trey Murphy, Herb Jones. Freaking Herb Jones.
Talk about it.
He gave you the defense. He gave you the 3-point shooting. If he had Zion on that floor, this could have been a lot more entertaining. They had to play Jonas Valanciunas so many minutes because he was the only one being an inside presence for them this entire series. The Thunder, man, people saying the worst one team in NBA history. They know, bro. They know how to play together. Shai Alexander is that guy. Jalen Williams has had some big games, especially late. You have Chet Holmgren. We thought that he was gonna have some problems with Jonas Valanciunas. No. You could just take Jonas Valanciunas outside and make him a non-factor. He had some big games. Josh Giddey started off the series slow, ended off like actually having a couple good games at the end there, including one game where must have been a backbreaker for the freaking Pelicans. 21-8-6. He had a great game 3. And then you have guys coming off the bench like Casey Wallace doing his thing. This Thunder starting 5 is insane. It's an insane starting 5 to have to deal with. And the Pelicans had no match. Jay, your thoughts on the series?
TV, there was a point where Chet Holmgren had more blocks than the entire Pelicans team going into game 4. That's how insane defensively this team was. By the way, you talk about Brandon Ingram not being ready to come back. He's about to spend the entire summer having nightmares about Luguentz Dort.
Yo, game 4, I felt the torture chamber is real, and Brandon Ingram like witnessed it firsthand in game 4. 2 for 4.
I mean, definitely one of his rougher one-on-one matchups. And I'm gonna tell you something that I thought was really interesting throughout this series in particular. You know that story from Amon Shumpert where he was talking about watching the game slowly transition before his very eyes, and then they play under a guy like Mike D'Antoni in New York, and he talks about this idea of like, you're taking away my favorite thing, which is the mid-range, right? You're moving me out of this mid-range. Brandon Ingram is one of the examples of why only the elite of the elite get away with still living with the mid-range as their main arsenal of offense. Because when Brandon Ingram could not seem to hit a mid-range jumper throughout this series, which was a lot, by the way, he was a non-factor. And here's the truth of the matter. Of course, we'll talk about the Pelicans more in depth on a different episode. But this series, to me, proves what I think we all know, is that the Pelicans can't keep coming into seasons blaming Zion not being healthy for the playoffs as a reason why they don't make any changes. They can't keep relying on that. It's understood that your superstar forward is a guy who's not necessarily built to last through 82 games. And in this case, he fell out in the play-in tournament after blue balling us with 40 points. But Lord, don't take me back down that road again. But you need to be able to build a contingency for your roster that makes up for the fact that you know that you have a superstar forward that just tends not to be healthy at the right times. And leaving this combination of Brandon Ingram and CJ McCollum as your quote unquote contingency plan, it didn't cut it last year. I think they got excited because they to push the series against Phoenix to 6.
Yes,
But
100%.
I think the Pelicans' observations of that series is the same as Atlanta when they made the Eastern Conference Finals run. And it's a misconception of success. A misconception of success that you believe that if you were just one player away, one circumstance different, you'd be further along. But guess what? Every year is a different year. But one thing that's been consistent for the Pelicans,
Zion's not there.
Zion Williamson in the postseason. So you eventually have to see that and address that. Their best mode to getting any type of improvement on this roster from a construction standpoint is probably moving off of Brandon Ingram. I think the reality also is, TV, they just got too many guys that do too many things that they just don't understand. TV, why is Jordan Hawkins getting DMPs in the postseason in a series where shooting definitely could have helped them against a Oklahoma City Thunder team that was literally off the paint?
They were playing freaking Larry Nance, Najee Marshall, and Alvarado hella minutes, and none of them could buy a bucket.
Dude, I mean, this is one of those things where you just have to tip your cap to the Oklahoma City Thunder because as the young team, they could have folded. Remember, game one, everybody kind of came out of game one like, ooh, could the Oklahoma City Thunder low-key get got? And I think they heard the noise and were like, okay, look, we got the first game jitters out. Relax. Let's go back to work. Let's do what we do best. And I mean, dude, I'm sorry, bro, but in 2024, to not allow a playoff offense to score 95 or more points through 4 games is ridiculous.
Besides the Miami Heat, this was the worst team to watch in the playoffs so far. This Pelicans. Sorry, you had Jonas Valanciunas freaking like lead your team in scoring for like 2 games this series. It was not a great watch for your Pelicans team. Something has to change. You've flamed out the last couple of years in the play-in tournament and now in the playoffs. Something has to change, and you're not going to be able to just rely on Zion. You see the potential. We all see the potential, but it's not come to fruition now, and it's not probably going to come to fruition in the future. So something has to change. We'll talk about that more in the future. Let's move on to the final series that actually ended in the West. We're going to go into the one that's still going on very shortly. Nuggets Lakers. Talk about a series where the Nuggets, I hate to use this term, but they were edging the Lakers so much in the series because the Lakers had like the lead for like 60 to 70% of the series in general. But the Nuggets were like, okay, we'll let you have your little thing. Once we get to the fourth quarter, Jamal Murray is going to be the best player on the league. That's what basically they told us. When you have the best clutch player in the front court in Nikola Jokic, and you have the best clutch performer in the guard position in Jamal Murray, and you put them together in the fourth quarter, it's just curtains. I think like the Lakers had a 20-point lead in the second game, gone just like that. Jamal Murray did the exact same play 2 games, and he got 2 like game winners. Look, man, the Lakers got that one game. They were able to hold on in that third quarter, man. They won the third quarter finally. But man, this Nuggets team, even though they were down, they're still the best team, and they just proved in the series. No matter how much you have us down, we're never out.
I think the scariest part about the series against the Lakers was just the fact that Jamal Murray, if you look at the overall productivity, he didn't have a great series. Like, you can make the argument that Aaron Gordon was low-key their second best player in terms of overall productivity. The counting stats might not say it all, but defensively, his ability to guard on both Braun and taking on the assignment against Anthony Davis in certain circumstances, catching one-on-one fades on the outside against Austin Reeves on the perimeter here and there. He was a big part of why game 2 went the way it went. where he kind of really got them back into that game. Because I think like you said before, they went to halftime down like 20 in game two, and then I think in the third quarter, like Aaron Gordon really came alive. I mean, this was a series where I think you can point to the Denver Nuggets still not even throwing out their fastball and just walking through the series. I think game four was just the Lakers having their last gas of desperation, and that's why they were able to pull it out. But I think the Nuggets show that why they show why they're one of the best teams in the NBA, man. Because at the end of the day, that starting five is nothing to be messed with. And
the best I don't care. I don't care about
we joked about it during the play-in tournament about maybe the Lakers wanting to dodge the Nuggets. I'm gonna be honest with you. After seeing what the Thunder did, I don't know if any pool was a good pool. I'm gonna be real with you. Yeah. I don't think any pool would have been a good pool because don't get me wrong. I think the Lakers would have definitely fit better up against the Oklahoma City Thunder. But the Lakers just could not generate offense. And at the end of the day, if you're not going to be able to generate offense against the Denver Nuggets, what I just saw from the Oklahoma City Thunder doesn't give me any reason to believe that you were going to be that much better against them.
Yeah, it's crazy. And bro, I have to talk about this, bro. Like, is there any player in NBA history that we've seen like Jamal Murray that could just take it from regular season success to what he produces in the playoffs, taking that like playoff jump? We've seen playoff performers in the past, playoff Rondo. We've seen people like, Steph Curry elevate his game. We've seen, actually not really Steph Curry, but you've seen people like Kevin Durant elevate his game, LeBron James. Jamal Murray hasn't been an all-star yet, and this man could just turn it on a playoff like it's a completely new season. Like how? Like how can you do this like in the fourth quarter every single time? And I bet you the Lakers are having freaking like nightmares. The Laker fans are having nightmares of this man going through the exact same pick and roll with Nikola Jokic and getting the same bucket every single time, and they can't do anything about it. This Nuggets team has found their formula. They know that even though Nikola Jokic is the best player in the league, they can go to Jamal Murray at late in games because he is apparently the best clutch player in the NBA. Like, what can you do against this like duo of Jokic and Murray in the playoffs? I don't think anything could stop it.
I agree with you, and I think that we are officially at that point. If we don't already make the call beforehand, Jamal Murray has overtaken CJ McCollum as the best player in the NBA that doesn't have an All-Star selection. I think we're here.
Pretty
clearly. I agree with you. Pretty clearly. He's easily taken that mantle, and I think he's always going to be second guessed because I feel like there's just other guys at the guard position during the regular season that are always just going to produce at a much higher level.
And stay healthier.
Stay healthier. That's a great point as well. But when the time comes where things count the most, I mean, it's not too many players. I'm coming to that point. It's weird. It's not too many players, I'm gonna say, especially that are not considered Hall of Famers, because I don't know if Jamal Murray is necessarily a Hall of Famer just yet.
Yeah.
But especially of non-Hall of Fame caliber, but still all-star level players, Jamal Murray might be like number one or two, definitely top three in that category of players that, like, if I had to start a team with, if I had to start my team with a non-all-star player, who would be a guy I would maybe want to start with? Jamal Murray's name gotta be one of the first three off the board.
It's literally insane how this man is like a top 30 player all year long, and then when the playoffs turn on, he's like a borderline top 5 player in the NBA.
Crazy.
It's crazy the jump that he makes come playoff time. It's absolutely insane. The Nuggets did their thing. I mean, the Lakers, they got good games from Anthony Davis. He was healthy for basically this entire series. LeBron James did his thing. But even still, even with all that, the Nuggets will always have their number. Always. I think they're like 14-1 in their freaking last 15 against the Lakers. They took that one game. That's the Lakers championship for this year. And the in-season tournament, they still got the in-season tournament. But still, tough end for the Lakers. Look, I mean, they had a chance to win that game 5, but then when you knew when the Nuggets didn't call a timeout and they gave it to Jamal Murray, you knew exactly what was going to happen, and the Lakers couldn't do anything. We know that they couldn't stop it, and they were able to pull it out. Great win for the Nuggets. that series versus the Timberwolves, we're gonna talk about it shortly. Gonna be a freaking French, a chef's kiss, bro. It's gonna be such a good series to watch. But we gotta talk about one more series before we move on to our prediction for the Timberwolves Nuggets, and that is the Clippers Mavs. And as you talked about for the 76ers, freaking the 76ers next series, this is up there for one of the best series in the playoffs so far. Jay, you've been covering this series a whole lot. Let me give you your thoughts. Let me hear your thoughts on this first.
TV, I don't know what to do with this series. Pick a lane. The Clippers. James Harden's had 2 really strong games. PG cannot be consistent. He cannot be consistent. Kyrie Irving might be the best player in this series with the way he's played.
I would say yes. I would say he's been the best player.
I think Kyrie Irving has genuinely been the best player in this series in terms of from front to back through 5 games. I think he has been the best player in this series so far. And we can't keep saying this, dude. There's a reason why the Dallas Mavericks are trying to position themselves to have enough bigs to be able to play somebody athletic next to Maxi Kleber.
Yes.
You can't have Maxi Kleber as a rim defender. It's not going to work. That's why you get a Daniel Gafford. That's why you draft Derek Lively Jr. Now, I mean, Derek Lively II. Now, granted, Derek Lively is dealing with some personal stuff. So understandable on his end. And Daniel Gafford obviously was dealing with a little bit of an injury as well. So you understand it. But this is the reason why they went after athleticism, rim running, and rim defense in the draft and at the trade deadline, is because at the end of the day, Maxi Kleber stretches the floor. You do not want him to be the last thing before someone gets to the basket.
Yeah, the last line of the fence. You don't want that.
You don't need that, bro. And we've seen it in a handful of games. TV, I think it was game. Was it game? I think it was game 3. Game 3. James Harden couldn't trick himself into missing a floater. That's how automatic he was within the paint. I think it was game 3. Was it game 3 or game 4? Game 4. Thank you. Game 4, James Harden could not miss from floater range. Couldn't miss from floater range.
That fourth quarter felt like a freaking simulation. I couldn't believe how many times he got that same shot off.
Because they just kept picking Kleber off of saying, well, if you're not going to take James, if you're not going to challenge James, I'm going to dump off to Ivica. If you stop Ivica, I'm just going to float over the top. And they just kept playing cat and mouse with Kleber the entire time. And his lack of athleticism and ability to recover, it made him easy pickings the entire game for him. And something I thought was super interesting was that it's not too many times that your best player comes back from injury and he actually disrupts the flow. That was an interesting thing to see in game 3 of just Kawhi Leonard coming back and it being a situation where you look at them and say oh, dang, everything looks real clunky all of a sudden. You know what I mean? Everything looks real out of pocket, out of place. And of course, he didn't seem very aggressive. It didn't seem like he was really finding his shot all that well. And that's another one of those things, TV, that goes back to what you said earlier about continuity. And the Clippers are the kings of never being able to get their shit together. And this is one of those circumstances where, yes, Kawhi Leonard was very healthy in comparison to past seasons this year. He's also a guy who missed a month of the season at the best part of getting your chemistry together, which is the run right before the postseason starts. And I think we saw in games like game 3 that when you just throw him back in the mix, it's going to look a little nasty.
Yeah.
But now I just wonder, what actually is the key to winning a series like this when there's no consistent point to lean on? Because there's a lack of consistency from Paul George and James Harden. Luka Doncic has been good offensively, great offensively in some instances.
Just the efficiency.
His defense is killing them, right? And then their lack of offensive shot creation outside of him and Kyrie is also killing him. I also don't like the way Jason Kidd is doing Dante Exum, by the way. Dante Exum has not gotten very much burn in this series, and I think that's a little tough considering that he was one of your better wings during the regular season. I don't know what's made him hard to play in this series in particular, but they need to kind of give my boy his credence back because I think he can really genuinely help them. But yeah, I'm not really sure where to lean. Now, granted, before the series started, I picked Mavs in 7, so I guess we should have anticipated this.
Yeah.
But the way that this series has went, I mean, what's the biggest point to you?
Like when I see this, like when I look at this series for the Clippers and the Dallas Mavericks, it's like, well, yeah, like you mentioned with the Clippers, I mean, you have been trying to lean on James Harden and Paul George this entire series. They've had two awesome games.
Yeah.
But with their history and the fact that like we've seen in the past, them leading a team just does not equate to like playoff success when you lean on that. And you could see that in like game 5. Once like that, when those two like inevitably doesn't start hitting, it's like, what else do you have left? That's why you want a Kawhi Leonard in this situation, but he's proven to be just not. You talked about Zion not being available. Freaking Kawhi Leonard hasn't been like fully available for this Clippers team throughout most of his tenure. Like
Mm-hmm.
we see, like who are you gonna rely on? Russell Westbrook. He had a freaking awful game last game, and then with the Mavericks side of things, like it's been like you said, Kyrie and Luka are bust. They finally got their big men rolling in the last game with the lobs and try to get them like their touches in the paint. But is that offensive duel enough to like pull you through the rest of the playoffs? Like, I truly don't know, especially when you have more well-rounded teams like that you have coming in front of you. But I will say with this series is that in terms of top end talent and like going up against each other on a game-to-game basis, it's been one of the most fun ones, man. Game 4, I think was it game 4 were the ones where the Clippers tied it up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. One of the most fun games I've ever watched. They almost gave up a 33-point lead. They looked like they were gonna freaking like blow out the Dallas Mavericks, but they almost gave up a 33-point lead to freaking Kyrie and like his amazing like theatrics throughout all of this. So it's been a really fun series, but you can look at both of these teams come out of it saying like there's still like major holes in this team on both these teams that we're not sure are like championship level worthy, or if they're going to be able to even like go up against a team like the Dallas Mavericks or even a more well-rounded team like the Timberwolves.
I think the main thing is this is the definition of a bad draw on both sides in the postseason. This is one of those when you get a matchup like this, especially when these two teams have played twice in the postseason prior to this, it's a matchup that although both rosters look a little different, a lot of the pieces are still the same for the
Yeah.
most part. And it's one of those chess matches where at the end of the day, both of these teams have seen each other so much that there's no real advantage you can take. It's just, are your guys better than my guys?
On a
And
night basis, yeah.
and in some games, the Clippers have had their guys click. And on other games, Dallas's two have just been unstoppable. And I think at the end of the day, it's just going to come down to who the best player in the series is. And like I said, I picked Dallas in 7 because I still think that Luka Doncic is a top 5 player in the world. And I genuinely don't think, even if Kawhi Leonard was healthy, I don't think that the Clippers have the best player in the series. And that's why I still am leaning with Dallas. But man, I mean, like I said, there's not enough consistency in one direction or the other to be able to feel like there's one valid point that says, like, okay, this team does this well, or this team does this bad to the point that this is the upper hand given in the series. There is no upper hand. It's just who has the better guy. And Luka Doncic, he even said in a post game interview, I have to do better for Kyrie Irving because Kyrie Irving is not the best player in the series in terms of like on a talent perspective. But in terms of his productivity, he's playing like the best player in the series, which
Yeah.
means that Luka Doncic has a level that he can go up to that they need to be able to see if they're going to take out the Clippers.
It's hard to find an X factor in this series, man, because what it really comes down to is whose stars are clicking at the right time. That's all and it's a great watch in that way because you get to see some of the best talent in the world just go up against each other in like a head-to-head battle. But there's gonna have to be that other guy. I mean, it's the duo for the Clippers, the duo for the Mavs. Who's gonna be that third guy to really step up for either team? We haven't got that consistently yet, and that's why we're in a series where it could still really go either way. Where it's like no one, again, kind of like the the Magic Cavs in a certain extent, where no one really has true momentum yet. It's like you're going back and forth trying to figure out who has the upper edge, but they're just like throwing punch for punch. And it's been a great series that way. But again, looking forward to Game 6, is it going to be the duo of Harden and Paul George, or is Luka and Kyrie going to continue to do their thing? So it's a fun series to watch that way, but it's really hard to kind of like figure out who really has the upper hand, especially because like there's always that X factor that Kawhi Leonard might be back, and if he's back and he's ready, what production can he give? So it's going to be interesting to see how the rest of the series plays out. And it's going to be even more interesting to see how they're going to be able to deal with a consistent team like the Thunder. We're going to talk about that in the future as well.
Mm-hmm.
Jay, before we move on to the quiz and draft, we have one series to preview really quick and give our prediction. The one series that has actually been confirmed through all of the playoffs for the second round. Nuggets Timberwolves, man. Another series. I think this is like what we talked about. It was like they're running it back from the first round last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Timberwolves are a lot better. The Nuggets are still just as good. I'm gonna throw it over to you. What are you looking forward to the series, and who do you have winning?
So I'm looking at the tenacity on defense once again for the Minnesota Timberwolves because they match up really well. Because you can choose to put an Anthony Edwards on a Jamal Murray, but you could also go with Jaden McDaniels and put him on a Jamal Murray and put Anthony Edwards on a KCP or a Michael Porter Jr. This is a very good series for a guy like Nickeil Alexander-Walker because I think that there's going to be a lot of perimeter play from Denver in this series, which is going to force guys to be a lot more physical, and Nickeil brings that to the table. My biggest worry is Karl Anthony Towns. It sounds weird to say that after him having a really decent series. Let me not say decent, that's facetious. He had a really good series against the Phoenix Suns.
Yeah.
He was in foul trouble the whole damn series.
Yeah. Besides like the last game, like he always felt like he was in foul trouble.
He was in foul trouble practically the entire series against the Phoenix Suns, and that was dealing with now granted, he was guarding Kevin Durant a lot of the time. But if you look at a lot of Karl Anthony Towns fouls, which I actually went back and watched a handful of his fouls from the series, just dumb stuff. Dumb stuff of being hyper aggressive in situations where it didn't need to be and picking up ticky-tack fouls that had him sit for like 5-6 minutes of like third quarters and missing big stretches of fourth quarters sometimes, just dealing with that kind of issue. And my worry for that is I think there's a world where Karl Anthony Towns has to guard Nikola Jokic in this series. And as savvy as Jokic is and as foul prone as Karl Anthony Towns tends to be in the postseason, sounds like Jokic might be able to get that boy out of there pretty quick if he keeps playing the way how he was playing, at least in that regard, from what he did in Phoenix. He cannot be that undisciplined. Game 4 gave a little bit better of a picture of him kind of using his brain a little bit more. And him and Anthony Edwards spoke on that a little bit in their post-game presser after Game 4 about just needing to, cut it out with the ticky-tack fouls and the little, dealing with foul trouble. Hopefully they take that circumstance and translate that in this series against the Denver Nuggets because they're going to need Karl Anthony Towns to beat the Denver Nuggets 4 times. I don't care how good their defense is. I don't care that Anthony Edwards is good to give you 40. I don't care that Jaden McDaniels and Nickeil Alexander-Walker look better offensively. They're going to need Karl Anthony Towns to be productive in order for them to beat the Nuggets. So with that being the case, I'm going to take the Nuggets. Holy cow. They got home court, right?
Yes. That final game of the season, man. That final game of the season.
Holy cow.
It's a tough matchup, bro. It's a tough matchup.
Dang, man. I'm trying to think because, that's so tough. I think it's the games that I'm struggling with. I think it's the game. How many games is it going to take? How many games is it going to take, though?
I'm
Mm,
I'm thinking it's gonna be Nuggets in 6.
you think 6?
I think 6.
In my heart of hearts, TV, you're probably right.
Nuggets.
But I'm gonna pick Nuggets in 7.
I don't hate it. I don't hate it. And here's the thing about this series, and this is why it's so much different from last series. You've got Rudy Gobert, you got Karl Towns, you got Naz Reid. You have bodies to put on Jokic. Now with Jamal Murray, you have Anthony Edwards, Mike Conley, you have Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Jaden McDaniels. They have bodies to throw to each of these guys. Where the Timberwolves last year, they were coming in a little bit hobbled, if you remembered, going into the playoffs. They're healthy now. And what's going to make this different, and what's going to change the series compared to the last series is that this Timberwolves offense is finally clicking too. Anthony Edwards has taken his game to a whole nother level. Karl Towns has finally found his role offensively in this two big man system. Rudy Gobert, even when you foul him, he's shown in the Phoenix series he can hit his free throws too. It's the Timberwolves have so much less weaknesses than they had in years past. And I think a big thing here for the Nuggets, and they're going to miss him badly for the series. I know he hasn't had a good second half of the season for the Raptors, but a Bruce Brown, man, just to give him that extra edge, like coming off the bench, is going to be big. Because when you have someone like who's going to be in your face all the time, and Jay McDaniels, and Anthony Edwards, someone who's going to be able to talk like that, you need someone on your team to actually like bring it back and give him that edge. I don't think there's someone on the Nuggets that can do that. I think that the Nuggets are the better team, but I think the Timberwolves are going to come in here more well equipped, and they have someone who can potentially be the best player in the series here in Anthony Edwards, which I don't think you can say that from last year because Nikola Jokic was clearly the best player on either side. But Anthony Edwards has shown in a series against Kevin Durant and Devin Booker that he could be the best player in a series. The more I talk myself into it, I might just say even like Nuggets in 7 as well, just because man, this Timberwolves team is finally clicking at the right time. They got Anthony Edwards on a whole nother level. I'm still gonna rock with Nuggets in 6. I still think that like in terms of like all around productivity and the way that this team is like clicking, especially now that Jamal Murray is finally into playoff form, I think it just might be too hard to stop on the defensive end, especially from the perimeter.
Yeah, I think that's TV. I think the struggle actually is that the more I sit there and listen to like us talk about like the Minnesota Timberwolves defense more than anything,
Yo, they have bodies, bro. They have bodies to throw at both of their stars.
it makes me feel crazy for doubting them, bro. It
On,
makes me feel crazy for doubting them.
it's gonna be so close. This is gonna be probably one of the best series of the playoffs.
Definitely. I'm gonna stick with what I said. I'm gonna say Denver in 7 because I think home court advantage is gonna be huge in a series like this. Because Denver thrives at home, but Minnesota's crowd has never been to the second round in 20 years,
Yes.
which means it's gonna be crazy in there. TV, this might be a series. I might end up being wrong like by game 2. We'll see, but this might be a series where the road team doesn't get a win.
There's a chance. There's definitely a chance. I do want to say one more thing before we move on to the series. This Timberwolves team, this bench of the Timberwolves could be also the difference maker here, man. When you got
Yeah.
Naz Reid and Nickeil Alexander-Walker providing you what they are in the playoffs so far, in the minutes where maybe Jokic and Murray are not on the court at the same time, those are the minutes that freaking the Timberwolves need to win in order to stay competitive in the series. And I think they have that bench advantage compared to the Nuggets from previous years.
I 100% agree. Those guys are going to be huge because Denver is definitely in a tough position. And the funniest part about it is we didn't bring it up in this series as much as we did with the Lakers one, but it's going to be interesting to see how Jamal Murray holds on because if he misses any time with this injury, it changes
Right.
things
Right.
off the rip. So maybe 7 games for the Nuggets looks more like 6 games in favor of Minnesota, just like that. All it takes is Minnesota catching this team sleeping with Jamal Murray maybe missing a game or maybe not being able to play as many minutes in a game because of injury, and we could be having a completely different conversation. But that just goes to show you how great this series is going to end up being because we have to point out little stuff like that as things that have to count as equalizers because otherwise it's just going to be a tit for tat series where these guys, we're going to see the best out of both of these teams.
100%. Let us know down below what you guys think. We're gonna be previewing more series when we go our next episode, but for this series in particular, who do you have winning and why? This is not the Timberwolves Nuggets series from last year where the Nuggets have the clear advantage. The Timberwolves have proved that they're here, especially against a veteran team like the Suns. Let's see how they do against the defending champs, man. I think that this is gonna be one to watch, and like you want to have your eyes glued to the screen when the series starts up this weekend. All right, Jay,
Definitely.
you got to move off of some playoff talk and try to go to the final two segments of the show, which is the NBA draft and the quiz. And we're gonna continue on with the NBA draft segment by talking about by drafting players from the 2012 NBA draft. Again, some top end talent here, some guys that we've mentioned on the podcast already. But Jay, how do you feel about the draft pool that we have of players?
Pretty good, pretty good. Second round steals are somewhere in here. A couple of interesting names. A couple of names that maybe only real basketball names or basketball heads, excuse me, will know. But also a couple of guys that you damn sure know if you watch any NBA basketball game.
100%. And you know how these drafts go. Jay gets the first pick, I get the next two, and we run things serpentine style. Jay, you got the first overall pick. I believe it's between two guys, but I want to know who you're going to end up choosing here with your number one.
Well, I'm gonna stick with the guy who still ended up going number one in that draft, and the guy who I still think probably is the best player coming out of that draft class. Give me Anthony Davis at the five.
Anthony Davis going number one. It was either him or Lillard. It was either him or Lillard, but Anthony Davis is a damn good pick there at the first. This draft, I'm again, there's a pretty decent amount of like bigs and guards in this draft. It's just the wing that might be a little bit of an issue. But for my next two picks, I'm gonna obviously take Damian Lillard. I think that's the easy choice for the next. But I'm also gonna go to the second round here and pick up Draymond Green. I think someone who can like anchor a defense, be able to do so much for you on the offensive end, the ultimate Swiss Army knife. I'm gonna have Draymond Green as my second pick to pair with Damian Lillard.
Something told me Draymond Green was gonna go off the board a little early. Not as mad about it though, just because I have Anthony Davis. My two picks are I'm gonna put Bradley Beal.
Yeah, I had a feeling.
We're gonna put him at the two for right now. That might change. We'll see, but I'm gonna keep him at the two. And then at my three, I'm gonna do my first dip in the second round. And let me get that man Chris Middleton.
Yeah, I had a feeling those two were the obvious next picks. That offense is going to be deadly. That the point guard position is going to be kind of interesting because besides Dame, it's kind of tough to find like a really like reliable point guard here. But those are the two like nice good picks, so I like those ones. For myself, I'm gonna go end up taking Andre Drummond, prime Andre Drummond at my five. I think that just someone just to meet Anthony Davis at the rim, so I'm gonna have Andre Drummond at my five. And then I kind of need like a couple of like wings here. I'm actually gonna go with solid role players all around. But I'm actually gonna go someone who's just like Mr. Reliable. You can just like put him like on anywhere, solid defender, solid offensive player. Every single year that you know he's gonna give exactly what he's gonna give you. Give me Harrison Barnes.
Yeah, that was definitely the guy that I was eyeballing myself too. Um, Taking Harrison Barnes off the board does change things a little bit, though. Hmm. I think my next pick. Let's make sure. Let's put Chris Middleton at the four.
Ooh,
Let's put Jay Crowder at the three.
like that. Another second round steal there. Another second round steal.
And then we're actually going to stay in the second round. And this might end up just being Bulls bias. But at the same time, he averaged 4 assists per game. And we've got pretty much good shooting around him. So the fact that he's not a good 3-point shooter doesn't really matter. Let me see. Yeah, he averaged 4.9 assists in his last season. Let me get Tomas Satoransky at the one.
Interesting. A big guard there. Someone who can maybe take Damian Lillard off his path, but at the same time, a solid playmaker. So not a bad final pick. Hey, look, man, you took your Chicago Bull. I gotta take my Toronto Raptor here with my two guard. Give me One of the most random 50-point games of all time. Give me Terrence Ross
Yeah.
at my 2 position. Ultra athletic back in his day. Amazing 3-point shooter in his day. The ultimate microwave for the Toronto Raptors. I'm gonna tell you right now, after that 51-point game, he scored 2 the next game. So it's crazy. But yeah, he's gonna be my final pick there to round out my roster. All right, Jay. We have our 2012 draft sorted out. Who is the team that you ended up drafting?
So for my 2012 NBA draft, starting 5, I went with Tomas Satoransky at the 1, Bradley Beal at the 2, Jay Crowder at the 3, Chris Middleton at the 4, and Anthony Davis at the 5.
The star talent there is pretty. I like the star talent that you got over there, and you got some like pretty good defensive players as well. My team though, at the 1, give me Damian Lillard. At the 2, Terrence Ross. At the 3, Harrison Barnes. At the 4, Draymond Green. And at the 5, Andre Drummond. Jay, how you feeling about your team that you drafted?
I feel solid. I mean, we don't need Tomas to do much besides set guys up. I've seen him play with the Bulls before as a good guy who can just kind of stir the pot, um plays as a bigger guard, like you mentioned beforehand, which makes him a little dangerous in terms of being able to make stuff happen out there. Not a big 3-point shooter. Like I said, did average about 4 or 5 assists for his career, so that's always solid as well. Um, Bradley Beal, sprayer. Jay Crowder, sprayer. Chris Middleton, sprayer. Anthony Davis can step out and hit the 3. Definitely got defense across the board. Bradley Beal might be our weakest defender on the lineup. Can't complain at all. Can't complain at all.
Yeah, I like my team too. You got Damian Lillard again, one of the best guards of the modern era. You got some sprayers in Terrence Ross. You have another setup guy in Draymond Green. And you got some guys who can play solid defense. John Drummond, like man the paint. I like it. I like the team. So I like the team that I ended up drafting. Let us know down below which team was better, mine's or Jay's. It's another good draft. Of course, we're gonna continue on as the episodes progress and try to go through every single NBA draft. Jay, it is time for the final segment of the show. It is time for the NBA quiz. And of course, when I have to do a quiz during the playoffs, I have to do something playoff related. So, Jay, I'm going to need you to name me the top 10 players who had the most points in a single playoff run by a rookie since the year 2000. So, you got to think of players who were on like winning teams as rookies, but they also had a pretty significant role. I think there's gonna be maybe like 1 or 2 guys here that you might need some help with, but the other guys I think you're gonna be able to get them pretty easily. So they had to make the playoff their rookie year, but also have like a significant part in the playoffs.
Since 2000?
Since 2000, yes.
Okay, because that's very specific. That means that you need to cut certain people out.
Yeah.
Okay, let's think. Jason Tatum has to be in here.
The number 1 guy from the 17-18 season, he had 351 points during that playoff run.
Yeah, he has to be in here. His rookie season, Boston was ridiculous. Since 2000, dang. They take some of my like super old head names I would normally lean on out of the picture. Yeah. D. Mitch with Utah?
Donovan Mitchell, number 3, 268 points in his rookie season run.
Okay. Cooking.
You got a few more modern guys here. You got like maybe 4 more guys post 2010.
The main thing is about guys who made the playoffs their rookie year. Like for example, like LeBron didn't make the playoffs his rookie year.
No, he did not.
So that's different. Is Melo there? Well, they didn't get out the first round.
They didn't get out the first round. Yeah, so he's not on this list.
Dwayne Wade did though.
Dwayne Wade, number 4 on this list with 226.
Lit. Okay, cooking with grease. Oh, who else? Tim Duncan?
Tim Duncan was pre-2000.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Dang, 99, right?
Think Spurs, though. Think Spurs.
Spurs scorer. Ooh. Yeah, because that takes Kawhi out. I think Kawhi averaged like 14 points a game or something like that. He was chilling. Manu
at number 5 with 226.
Okay. Cooking. Bubble Tyler Hero.
I was waiting for it. Bubble Tower Hero at
Yeah.
number 2 with 335.
I'm still of the belief that series got him paid. That series got him paid.
No. We're gonna talk about it when the Heat what to do next, in the next episode. But damn, yeah, he's still living off that.
Yeah, he's
So you got the
definitely.
top 5. You got the top 5. You're just missing the bottom 5 again. 2 of these guys are gonna be kind of tough, so I'm gonna have to give you your hands. But there's still 3 guys post 2010. Think of teams that are always in the playoffs. I feel like all these guys at least they're always kind of constant playoff contenders.
Always in the playoffs. Oh man. Okay.
You got, I think two of these guys here that are post 2010 are NBA champions.
Ooh, okay. That changes things a little bit. Is Steph here?
Not Steph. He didn't make the playoffs his rookie year.
That's right. You're right.
Yeah.
Is Dame here?
Dame didn't make it. Dame didn't. I think. I don't think he made his playoffs his rookie year. He made his second year.
Is D Rose here?
Derrick Rose is not on this list. No.
Damn it. Okay.
One of these guys had one of the best probably starts to his career first 3 years, but then he's completely fallen off.
Damn TV, it sounded like you were talking about my boy Derrick Rose.
No, this guy was but I mean he's point guard, former point guard. But yeah, he when he came out the gates, he was an important member of this team. He just did not I mean we talked about it. We talked about him before the season. We were hoping for a comeback, but he wasn't able to give it to us.
Oh God, is it Ben Simmons?
Ben Simmons, number 10 at 163.
Oh Lord. Wow, that's not good. Ooh, I got a random one. Random one. What about Michael Porter Jr.? Is he on the list?
Michael Porter Jr., number 6 at 216.
Random pool, but that first year for Michael Porter, I mean, hey,
look,
valid, so.
Same season as Tyler Hero. He had some pretty big games in that playoffs.
Yeah, I was gonna say rookie season, Michael Porter Jr. in the bubble was a demon. I mean, he was solid. So I mean,
you got. I'm gonna tell you right now, you got the 7 easiest ones. These last 3 are a bit kind of tough. One of these guys, think Warriors dynasty. That he
Clay? Nah, never mind.
He spent it.
Oh God, is it Jordan Poole?
Not Jordan Poole. No.
Oh, thank God. I was about to say that don't even make no sense.
He didn't make the playoffs his rookie year because that was the year.
That's right. That was the year Steph Curry missed, right?
Yeah, this guy. I think we drafted him in this recent draft that we did.
Andre Iguodala?
No. This recent draft that we did, the 2012 NBA draft. I mean, he didn't play long with the Warriors because they ended up shipping him pretty early in his career. But he was still a starter on one of.
You mean to tell me Harrison Barnes is on this list?
Harrison Barnes, 193, number 7 on this list.
I can't believe that. Oh my gosh. Okay.
Hey, look, if you have a long playoff run and you're averaging 12 points a game, so it's kind of
fair. And he was consistent. That was the one thing you knew was he was going to give you 12 to 15 points a night, and he wasn't going to do anything else. That's a good point.
Yeah. These last 2 were the hardest, though. One of them was part of the Magic's final run in 2009. He was a rookie this year.
What?
He wasn't much of a ball handler, but he played the 3-and-D position pretty well at the guard position. You definitely wouldn't think of him as a playoff performer. He was a bit of a journeyman throughout his career.
Really? Oh man, that changes things significantly.
Yeah, these last 2 guys are not very notable, but you for sure know them. And they both started for these teams, I will say. They both started for their respective team.
For that specific description, I have 2 guys in mind. The first is JJ Redick.
Not JJ Redick.
Then the second one is Rashard Lewis.
Not Rashard Lewis.
Really? Oh my God.
I mean, I will say, I think I'm gonna check back his playoff run, but the Orlando Magic made it to the finals that year, so I don't think it would have taken like too much for him to make it. But he's played for like 8 teams in his NBA career. I'm trying to see like his play, like how much he averaged that year in the playoffs. Again, they made it he made it like all the way to the finals. So even though he didn't score like too many points, he like, still like had like a pretty like he totaled enough points at near the end, if you know what I mean. That season, he averaged 8 points a game in the playoffs. I mean, he wasn't a great three-point shooter back then. He was pretty athletic. He's most known for his time probably with like the Mavs, I would say. Had a little stint with the Boston Celtics.
You want to know what's really nasty?
What?
You're naming there's 2 players on that team that you're basically describing right now. One I know is wrong. Well, no, I don't. You're describing 2 players who both played on the Mavs and the Boston Celtics, because Michael Peters played on both teams, right?
Yeah, but he's not. It's not the guy on the list.
So it's Courtney Lee.
It's Courtney Lee.
That's so nasty. That's so nasty. That's so
169
nasty.
points. Look, 8
Yuck.
points a game, and you make it to the finals, and you play decent minutes. You'll creep up there.
Yuck. That is easily the worst team on this list.
Oh, just
that's
wait
what you
for the
heavy,
next
Courtney Lee. But God.
Just wait for the next guy, because this guy was a member of the 2007 Cavs team that went to the finals.
I'm sorry, what?
2007 Cavs team that went to the finals. He was a rookie this season. I will say he got a lot of flack, but he was a solid role player back in his day. Again, another guy, 8 points per game, 41% from 3. He was a solid guard.
If this was a regular season game, he simply said, "Don't let your."
Look, man, there were a lot of.
Who were rookies that year? That's the real question.
He played significant minutes. He averaged 20 minutes a game during that run.
This is Booby?
It is Boobie Gibson. He sneaks onto this list with 165. Most points by a rookie in a single playoff run since the year 2000. I mean,
Okay,
you know what?
You're right. Definitely the worst name on the list.
Yeah, Boobie Gibson, man. I mean, Courtney Lee and Boobie Gibson, again, not too many points per game, but when you make it to the finals and you have a significant role on the team, you'll creep up there. You'll creep up there on the list. Definitely some of the weird things you have on the quiz, for sure.
Jesus.
But yeah, let us know down below what you guys think of this quiz and what other quizzes you want to see down the line. But Jay, we have reached end of another fantastic episode. Thank you guys for watching. What do you have to tell these beautiful people before we sign out?
Next time we sign on, we'll be talking more in depth about the second round and doing a post-mortems on some of the teams that got kicked out in the first round. Obviously, we won't go too crazy on the post-mortems. We'll probably go even more deep on those teams that got eliminated once the postseason is officially over, and we can kind of really sit down and break down each of these teams, conference by division by division or something like that. We'll have the format down pat to come the off season or whatever. But obviously, I have a lot in store. Keep it with the TikTok. We've been killing it over there, doing a lot better during the postseason. And keep up with the podcast. We are about to start ramping things up. I am slowly but surely about to be out of school, graduating and all that stuff. So that's going to really free up some more time. That's huge. I love the accomplishment, but I also love the free time it's about to hopefully permit me as well. So a lot more content, and I'm hoping to just be able to continue to do special things with this NBA postseason that we have going on, because this has definitely been one of the more exciting postseasons to cover in recent memory, and I'm loving every second of these games that we're watching, which means that the second round TV, we are in for something special, man, because I see maybe one series out of every series we potentially will get in the second round that will not be entertaining. Other than that, every single series I think that we get in the second round, except for maybe one, has the chance to maybe go a full 7. Like that's how insane this second round really could get.
100%, and you can catch it all on the Hit Your Free Throws podcast. We're gonna be giving you a lot of episodes in the next coming weeks, and we're also gonna be, of course, on the TikTok and Instagrams to be giving you the instant reactions. So be sure to check us out on there. YouTube, remember to like, share, and subscribe. Show us some love on the podcast networks. And yeah, just thank you guys for all the support on everywhere. And of course, we're going to give you more content going forward. But yeah, another fantastic episode. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you have a fantastic day. This is TV. This is Jay. We're signing out.